the dog for the next couple weeks. And you know what, though? It is so worth it, having the experience, taking that risk. And I like to tell this story because, for me, this is an example of adults playing. Now, we work with young children. We live and work with the experts on play. We know what play is. We see it. We participate in it. But outside of this room, outside of our bubble here, most adults have no idea what we're talking about when we talk about play. To them, it's something frivolous, something that they left behind. Most adults, when they go home at the end of the day, they don't play. They watch television or Netflix. Maybe they read a book, which is nothing wrong with that, or knit. Nothing wrong with that, but that can hardly be called play. For one thing, there's no risk involved in it. And that's one of the key elements of what play is. And so I like to tell this story because I feel like, and this is my part of it, this is my time on the agenda, just so you know. Because I look around at what's happening in education. And I see this emphasis on academics and directive instruction. And it's becoming more and more intense. Kindergarten now is what we used to call first or even second grade. They're expecting children to do things that are not developmentally appropriate, and they're having their childhoods taken from them. And they're not having the opportunity to play, to explore the world, to ask and answer their own questions, to choose their own activities, to do the things that humans are designed to do from the time they're young, to explore and be curious, or be curious and explore. I never know which way around it goes. And I'm asking you, us, in this room, I'm like you, for the same reasons. So I got into this for the same reasons all of you did. I know it's true. I love the feeling of those tiny little hands in mine. When you hold their hands and just feel it there, you're walking along. Or when one of them's crying, and they let you pick them up, and they put their head right here, and you feel the tears soak through your shirt. Oh my God, that's why I'm there. I'm there to help them. I'm there to help them in the toilet with those little moments, or help them with eating food, and living with them in that moment, being present with the children. And that's the gift they give us, right? Because they know how to live in that moment. We've all kind of forgotten it until we're with the kids. So I'm in it for the same reasons you are. But the truth is that I'm inviting all of us to just take a step back and look at the bigger picture. And think about that we are, in a very real sense, the last line of defense in many ways. So I'm asking you tonight, I'm not going to go into a rant about play necessarily and the importance and the power of it, but I will say to you that I'm inviting all of you to just, in your world, be that defender of childhood. They need it. Humanity needs it. We need the kind of critical thinkers that come out of that kind of childhood. The people who know how to stand up for themselves, to speak, to ask and answer their own questions. So I wanted to, tonight I've been asked, well, I guess I want to mention this too. I've written a book. It's called Teacher Tom's First Book. There's some here I brought them along. They're for sale. But you know what? I'm going to tell you this too. My publisher hates this. Every single thing in this book you can get for free online. On my blog. So I'm just telling you that. This is just for the people who really want to have a book in hand. And I'll have you do it. So that's all I'm going to say about that. So tonight I'm talking about something that's really near and dear to my heart as an educator. And it's been a centerpiece of my practice since I first began as a teacher. And I call this speaking with children so that they can think. And I think that's what we want, right? Ultimately, that's our goal. Children who are thinkers, critical thinkers, people who think for themselves, people who ask questions, maybe learn to question authority a little bit sometimes. But and I think that's what we all want, but I'm going to try to make the case tonight that in many cases, through our use of language, even those of us who are play-based educators, we create a reality around that is the opposite of that. Now, in a very real sense, and I'm not using this as a metaphor, in a very real sense, the language we use creates reality. And this is not, I'm not speaking metaphorically. I mean, this is what physicists tell us about the universe. I mean, they tell us, right now they say that we create the reality we perceive because our senses put together these random photons and create vision, these random waves, and we create sound, that we are creating it. And the words we use with one another is how we create a collective reality. Now I'll give you an example. This is a small example, but many of you probably heard this before. The Eskimos, the Inuits, they have something like 35 different words for what we call snow. Right? I mean, when you say it's snowing to an Inuit, they don't know what you're talking about. There's 35 different things. So the reality around snow is a lot different than ours. Does anyone here speak German? No? Got a couple. There's a German word. Jennifer is my wife here. She and I, we moved to Germany back in the 90s. And I didn't speak a word of German. And one of the first words I learned was the word Schadenfreude. Yeah, people know that one, right? It's not just German, is it? But and that word, directly translated into English, means taking pleasure in the pain of others. That's a real German word, isn't it? I mean, if you think about that, and not only that, but most of the time when I heard this word, I would be with somebody, and they would say, we'd be riding with somebody in the car, and they'd see a car broken down on the side of the road, and they would say, Schadenfreude, beste Freude. It means what it sounds like. That's the best pleasure, is the pain of others. And I said, this is horrifying. I mean, I can't imagine we're going to live here with these people. I mean, they did start 2 world wars. They did do the Holocaust. Oh my God. What's wrong with these people? How can they say things like that? And I was like, how can we live here? But then I started learning the language. And I began to understand what they were talking about. And in fact, when they used that phrase, they meant it as a statement almost of empathy with those other people. They were saying, I've been there before too. We've all been there before. We've all experienced that pain. And that's why it's the best, because it's something we all share. Now, in German, they have a reality around that because they just have that one. It took me in English, 3 paragraphs to describe that. Does anyone here speak Italian? I don't either, so that's okay. That's good. But I had this confirmed by Italian speakers. I was talking about this at a school in Australia, actually. And while I was speaking about it, one of the teachers interrupted me and said, we just had a group of Italian educators come visit us, and one of them didn't speak English. So she had a translator with her. And as we were walking in the building, there was a weed growing out of the crack in the pavement. And the Italian woman asked what kind of plant it was. And we said, it's just a weed. And the translator was stumped. There's no word in Italian for weed. Now think about that reality. There's no word, there's not a concept in the language for an unwanted plant. And the translator was stumped, and she thought about it, and finally she translated it as an unexpected flower. Isn't that beautiful? That's not a weed. That's a title to a poem. So those are just small examples, but I'm going to talk a little bit tonight about how I see this coming up bigger and bigger. I think one of the things that in the education world, and this is one I hope I challenge some of you on a little bit. Maybe I'm not. Maybe you're so far ahead of me that, who knows. But I think that maybe some of us believe this, but certainly the bigger world believes that this is a statement that you're all going to disagree with at first. In any given circumstance, when there's 2 or more people, somebody's got to be in charge. Now, I don't think anybody here really believes that's true, at least not 100% of the time. But I think we create that reality with our language, especially when it involves adults and children. This idea that adults are in charge of children is pretty pervasive. Now, some of us might think, yeah, that's true. And some of us are probably thinking, no, I'm not like that. I'm a colleague with the kids I teach. But I'm going to argue, wherever you come from, with our language, we create this, we reinforce this idea of the adults being in charge. I'll give you the perfect example. When you take children out on a field trip, and you're outside with them, and you're out in the world, and people come up to you and say, oh, what sweet little children. They're not talking about their intelligence. They're not talking about their good looks. They're not talking about their creativity. They're talking about their obedience. Their behaving.